Okay, so we have the meeting started now. And for attendance, we have Kristen Basiega, we have Rebecca Good, we have Anne Deschelle and Cynthia Ritchie,
Yes, here.
as well as Ben Feet as our guest.
All right, so we are called to order at 8:52 a.m. And today, because we don't have a quorum, but we do have a majority of a quorum, I'm figuring we will not go over the minutes because we won't be able to take action on those. But I wanted to give you a quick update about the proposed superintendent waiver. I had brought this up at the last meeting of the board, but I was able to meet quickly with the talent office for the State Department of Education, and they were able to give us some feedback on this. And I thought their feedback was really wonderful. So they were also able to answer some questions that we had proposed, like what would be the forms, who would develop the forms, how would this be implemented. So if you take a look at the superintendent waiver proposal, I just want to point out the changes. So one of the suggestions was that we specifically say that this is a pilot of a pathway. The benefit of saying that it's a pilot is it doesn't tie our board or the State Department of Education into a pathway that may be really tough to implement, or we don't know how it's going to turn out. And since the purpose of our board is to reevaluate periodically based on data, by having this as a pilot, we'll be able to see how it goes for a year, ask for a report from the State Department of Education, and then get feedback on how this is actually affecting our workforce. So the pilot language was put in. There was a clarification that they wanted to suggest, which was to say that this would be 1 full year, 10 months of teaching as the teacher of record, right? If you have a person who is hired as a tutor, that's not the same as being a teacher of record, because then they are not part of the district's evaluation program necessarily. They're not necessarily assigned a supervisor. They're not necessarily given evaluations. And the idea with the 1 year of service is that 1 year they're being observed in the classroom, they're having a supervisor that's able to give them feedback and that can attest to their performance in a classroom experience. Whereas if they weren't a teacher of record and they were hired in some other role, that wouldn't necessarily be the same level of feedback, right? And
Kristen, the concern that
it's my school.
It's you? Oh, okay. All right. I thought it was me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. My concern with the SDE and the district involvement is still one about CAPE and accreditation and the EPP being responsible to report on and indicate data for content measurement, right? And
yes. So I can, go ahead.
And 1 year of teaching, I think what Rebecca has offered in the test waiver option 1 and 2 gets at what you're trying to do in this, but with more attention to the EPP having some control over it, which is important for us because we're the ones who have to document that knowledge base, whether or not they leave us or don't. Otherwise, it really messes with our data. Do you know what I'm saying?
Because
we have to put them out there before they're done.
Right. So when I was talking to the talent office about this, one of the things they mentioned was that they think they're able to build this into their new certification system that they're going to be putting forward. So they're going to be switching from CECS, that certification online portal, to a new program for reporting certification. So Shawana Tucker was saying they'll actually just be able to work that into all one system so that EPPs will be able to see, how their graduates have done, including whether or not they get the superintendent waiver. And because they're still going to be getting their scores, they will still have an assessment. They will still have their scores um, on the standardized assessment. You'd be getting some numerical feedback there, but also this qualitative knowing that they have passed, 1 year of service in their district. I have to, can you guys still hear me? Okay. I have to move classrooms in just a sec, so I'm just getting ready. Um,
The
but so
qualitative piece is a problem, though, because really that's much more difficult to provide for accreditation data in terms of validity and reliability. Again, I think the idea of how do we assess content is really important. And I liked the idea of even having a team module that Cynthia suggested.
I did ask about team. I asked about team specifically, and they were saying that team wouldn't be the best place to put content. The team modules they are planning to redo, and Boston University is doing a study with the state of Connecticut to figure
Right.
out how best to redo it. But they said with the number of different certifications and the number of different content areas, that the idea that the state would make a module for physics, a module for Latin, a module for Greek, right? That each of those modules, they didn't think that was a feasible thing for the state to be creating those modules as part of team.
That's fine, but I still have the issue with the EPP. Again, then I would go back to Rebecca's options of the EPP approving the waiver. EPPs know, for the most part, I mean, they have the transcripts, they've students are in their program, they're closely aligned to the student. They should be able to best assess content. And we're talking about such a small percentage. I don't know. I have a problem with it because I think it's gonna, I don't know, Rebecca, you're
Yeah.
an EPP person, so
Yeah,
help me out.
my thing is like what I don't understand about the difference between this and what I propose. So my I think this is like option 3 in my version, right? Like everybody tests, that takes care of like 1%. Option 2, this comes down to like a candidate has an option to choose between doing something with their EPP and their EPP signs off, or the candidate might say they might be so far removed from their EPP that like that's like they want to do a 10 months, like a whole school year within their within the school district that they have been working in. Am I reading this wrong? Like to me, like what you're proposing is that like second option for a candidate.
Yes. Remember what we had talked about when I originally proposed this at the last board meeting, that this was a combination of your waiver option 2, except that it has a testing minimum that you have to get within a certain score on your Praxis, ACE till Pearson.
Right.
So that those are
So
both the same thing.
right. So then, so Anne, that what she's proposing in my plan, you know how it has like step 1 takes care of this percentage.
Yes.
Step 2 is the bridge, and then step 3, a candidate decides. Do they have the EPP sign off on the content knowledge waiver, or do they have their district sign off on the content knowledge waiver? And so the reason I think that it should go to candidate mainly is because I don't know. I mean, if you've probably experienced this. Sometimes we have candidates that just have been so far removed from us as an EPP that we like to go back into the EPP and try to navigate getting a waiver. It is not as streamlined as they've been working as in whatever kind of non-teaching certified position within a school district. And it would be easier for the candidate to then teach for one additional year. They've completed the EPP. They've done all of their requirements. The only thing that's holding them back is that content knowledge. So they would be in their within that district, and then they would get signed off by the superintendent or the designee. But I don't agree with the standard deviation part. That part, I'm like, why? This is such, you're right, and there's such a small.
No, the reason I think the standard deviation part for the 15% is really important is that I think there does need.
Hold on one second, Kristen. Hold on. Let me just finish my thought, and then I would love to hear your rebuttal.
Knowledge about a subject.
I don't think she can hear me. So like having that piece to me for whatever this 5% of students are, if now I'm putting my like school principal hat on, and Cynthia, I would love to hear your thinking as a superintendent. There are candidates who could take the test 1,010 times, and that is not how they are able to show their content knowledge. And yet, when they're in my classroom, like teaching, students are growing in their content knowledge. They actually have the content knowledge. The gap isn't the content knowledge, it's the way in which it's being assessed. And so that, like, to me, for that particular candidate. And so that, I think, is a small percentage of candidates. And I think that's what my proposal covers. And so that's where I worry about like creating yet another standard deviation line in addition, who's like checking that standard deviation at that point of the process. Kristen.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I have a class that's gonna start, but I also have a person who's gonna come in for me. So I'm just like keeping an eye on them. So I think the difference is we're creating a pathway that has to show an alternate minimum content knowledge, right? So I think that having some minimum level of being able to answer questions about math is important, right? If it was physics and I couldn't do the physics, then how could I be expected to teach the physics? And I know you're saying that there's a small percentage of candidates that they struggle with test taking, but I think within 15% of the cut score is a big number of candidates. I have been trying to get in touch with ETS so that they'll be able to be at our board meeting on Monday and give us an idea of how many candidates this like 15% would encompass. So hopefully that's a number they can get to us on Monday. But I think the 15% will cover all of those candidates, right? Because 3 SEMs or 15%, that's going to be, you know, I feel like a lot of the candidates that get close are going to already be within that range, you know?
I think I agree to disagree. I think I want to empower the principal and the superintendent for that at that point of the candidate's process. A candidate has taken the test. They have then put in an additional year under like supervision. They have chosen this path, and chosen the path to be assessed by their school placement. I trust the principals and superintendents to assess the minimum content knowledge at that phase. They've finished their EPPs.
Can I ask? Oh, go ahead, Cynthia.
Oh, thanks, Ann. Yeah, I was just going to chime in that I understand the plan. I understand all the different perspectives, but from the true goal of being able to share content mastery, I don't feel this plan has that yet. For example, there's no support for PD. If someone is missing something, we need to work to fill that gap. Instead, it's just collating time. So How do we define
Yeah.
successful teaching? I would love to see if we can't add it to team, I feel like another module of some kind where we are focusing our efforts on helping this educator rise to fill the gap that they have in content knowledge. In lack of a system of evaluation and support, then I feel we're just not filling that void.
So do you feel like
Yeah, I
the time on its own, like the 10 months, 1 year time on its own, of classroom experience is not enough without an additional?
Correct.
and
Correct.
I also feel that Cynthia's made a good point, right? We're talking about the difference between pedagogy and content assessment.
Mhm.
We're really talking about content assessment here. So we have to keep that clarification out there. And then also, we're talking about the differentiation between people who know their content but don't test well, and people who truly don't know their content and therefore don't test well. There's a big
Right.
difference there. And so
But
I
I think
agree with Cynthia
15%.
that there needs to be, if you've not tested well, it could be that you know your content, but we should make them prove it, or that you don't know your content and then we need to help them.
Right.
But
I
I
like
don't
the
see just being in a classroom as doing that
Mhm.
in terms of assessing content knowledge. The other concern I have is in putting all this responsibility on the district, which is okay, are you really going to turn away a person who's been teaching for 10 months or more who has not yet proved their content base? I worry about that. I
Mhm.
worry about that because I don't see that in a shortage context, people
Mhm.
saying, I'm sorry, you didn't cut it. I where the EPP has more experience with that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I don't want to give it up. I'm just saying that's really hard to do. So
Maybe it's a blend. Maybe it can be a
yeah.
blend where I would love to see this person in this situation have to write goals, because a
Mhm.
written document that says this is my focus area, and then maybe a blend with the universities to say observations are happening in the classroom, this person is working towards these goals, they're customizing PD at the district level, but they're also checking in with their EPP to maybe take a webinar or a course or a coach from the EPP to give them more tools and resources to build that content.
Right.
So we
I
all
mean, we
know.
have an induction semester, and I would be more than happy if I had a student, a candidate, who did everything but show me that they knew their content. I'm more than happy as an EPP to have guidelines of saying, okay, this is what you need to do that's not a test to either improve your content or show me how you know it. And,
Sure.
sustain them through an induction period where together, I partner with the district to make sure of that. But I have to be honest, these ideas of just being in a classroom for 10 months doesn't prove they know content. That's my sort of
Agree.
clear.
So
Yeah.
I think one of the perspectives from the members of the education committee was that they were talking about how this idea basically mirrors the residency, the teacher residency program that they're thinking of considering, like having no content knowledge assessment, that showing that they can teach for a year would be sufficient to show that they have content knowledge. Um, and actually, one
I
of the
disagree.
suggestions from the State Department of Education was that this waiver and the residency program could get treated similarly. Um, One of the forms they're considering making is, once the residency is completed, which is with a mentor and with a sign off from a superintendent, that that same form could be used in this instance to show that a district has given the teacher support, and is signing off that their content knowledge is sufficient. So I'm just wondering, like,
But
why
how
would
would
a
you know that,
residency
Kristen?
program? Hmm?
How would you know that? Let's say you were a fifth grade math teacher. That was your
Mhm.
residency.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're certified for math in general. you've only taught a certain portion of the curriculum that year in order to do you see what I'm saying? It's still not an explicit assessment of content. It's more of pedagogy within a very particularized year. I don't agree. I mean, I feel like I came to this board because I want to professionalize teacher. I want to upgrade what's happening. I just feel like this doesn't, I want to know that this teacher knows their content. I want to help them when they don't. I want to help them if they're poor test takers. But I don't want to just have some kind of way that they teach for a year, and because they've had some support from their grade partner or whatever, they get through it. And I foresee that. I'm sorry, I really do with this kind of waiver. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the things the state does want to go towards, though, is having more experiential based, you know, showing of content knowledge. I think that's why the residency program was started, right? Was to be able
No,
to give
that's not why the
people.
residency was started.
No,
I'm just, as the person that started residency, I'm not like, I'm not.
that ain't it.
It was, that's not why it was started. And I it's really helpful, Anne, to hear you say, like, you're like, I just want something that shows that they have content knowledge, not the pedagogical approach to teaching the content, but the background of content knowledge. I believe that there, Kristen, what you're explaining is there is a core difference in what people think about that. I believe that the importance on, have I memorized like this depth of content knowledge, even though I might not be able to teach it. I might not have the pedagogical like acumen to do that. Do I have this like core understanding? The importance of that is very high for you, Anne. I hear what you're saying. It's not high for everybody. And I think many of our education committee members, they have expressed, they're like, hey, and I mean, and I hear this from principals. They're like, hey, I don't like, if you can't remember that particular like scientific approach, you can get online and get a highly qualified material of instruction to help do that, and we can move forward. I'm more concerned about your pedagogical ability. I recognize also, though, that this work that we're doing in this particular ad hoc is about the content, like just being able to know the content. Like, do you know it, and do you know it at this time, and do you know it for what it is right now? Because I will say that
It changes. Yeah.
it changes, right? Like, we can just look at the science of teaching reading, and like somebody would have been an expert 5-10 years ago in how to teach reading, and today they are seen as like, you don't know how to teach reading. And so I mean, that content knowledge shifts. So I think the core is, like, we might not all agree on this kind of small percentage of candidates of like, I'm like, I don't have as much of a problem with somebody not being able to demonstrate that minimum content knowledge if they are because they have access in this day of age to fill that gap. So to me, that's not as big of a deal, but I recognize I don't think that decreases the profession. Like, I don't think that like deprofessionalizes, because like, just because of where we are in the age of the internet. And so I would move forward with this, not my version, because of just where we are in society. And I very much respect and understand, Anne, like where you're coming from around, no, I just want to see like the minimum content understanding. Kristen, you're right. Like, there is a move towards helping and supporting this very small percentage of students who are not able to demonstrate it in the one way that we value, like an assessment, right? Like, they're not able to demonstrate it in that way. Maybe they can demonstrate it in another way, that they have a basic. And I think that's what, Cynthia, you're saying about, could they demonstrate it through a team module? Could they demonstrate it in a different way? And we just don't have that idea. Like, we don't know what the way is. So maybe it's a placeholder of, we want demonstration of content knowledge. We don't believe that the kind of multiple choice assessment online is the way to go right now. So we need to identify the other way to assess that minimum content knowledge and get those pieces. Cynthia, thank you.
I'd like to see the person have the opportunity to be in the classroom, to set an annual goal specifically to demonstrate content mastery. I'd like to see 3 observations of this teacher per year by the supervisor with the specific requirement to comment on the observation of the teacher's content mastery. And then if you did that for 2 years, that would be 6 observations, which is normal practice for pretty much all teachers, especially non-tenured. That collection of observations with specifics about content knowledge can be shared with the EPPs, or all along the EPPs could maybe come in to one of the mid-year meetings or something to see how is this candidate doing. And at the same time, if the EPP could offer online modules or an article or a resource or a mentor or a check-in, perhaps at no cost, just tools to help with the professional learning, then I feel like we have the 2 pieces, because we can't put people in a classroom without a support plan.
Right. Okay.
Agreed.
So let me just make sure I have it all down. So you would like them to set a goal related to content mastery. Is that, I think one of my questions is because they just revamped the teacher evaluation program, and the teacher and supervisor are supposed to mutually agree upon a goal. So this would be us saying that they have to set this goal.
Yes,
think-
and it could work because they're not certified.
Right.
So in order to get the differences, they are aiming for their license.
Good, because I was like, I know that was in state law when they were changing how the T-Val is going to work. Okay, so set a goal related to content mastery. I think for untenured teachers, my district has 5 observations a year under our T-Val program. Does yours also have 5?
So we used to have, they're minis now. I think it's 4 minis, but there's also
And, like,
the
2
the
formals
beginning
or
of the year and the end of the year. So it's more short snippets of observation is the way our district plan went, but it's mutually agreed upon, and it's, not specific to content. Yeah, but I would think in this case, people have different professional aims, and in this case, the professional aim is to prove content mastery. And on the flip side, maybe the person could be paid as a certified teacher with the knowledge and understanding that they're putting in extra time and effort to do their own self-learning and, professional actions to reach out to EPPs, to read a textbook, to, join a curriculum committee or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's all part of their expected professional pay to go above and beyond.
I think the pay is a little tricky because, like, the recognition clause for a lot of union contracts will say, like, only certified. So if they're uncertified, and working under a DSAP, it would go to whatever your district was normally paying people working under a DSAP. But I do really like this. Okay, so you were saying 2 years with 6 observations. If in their regular teacher evaluation plan, they were getting 5 observations. So one of the worries I was worried about with 1 year versus 2 years was that with 2 years, what if your first district was, like, just not a good fit for you? If it was 2 years, it might be really hard to get that second year in with the same with the same evaluator, supervisor. You might not be able to get rehired because you are untenured, you're the lowest on the totem pole, and if it's not a good fit, then I just don't want people to spend 1.5 years and then realize, oh no, I don't have this pathway open to me anymore, and have to go back and have to go to one of the other pathways.
Maybe it could be 1 year if they meet, if they successfully meet the observations. I think I think what I'm proposing is not only like the little new mini observations, but actually, let's say, so I said 3 at first, maybe 2 formals in addition to the minis, like the regular classroom check-ins. But in the formal observation, you have to show a well-defined, ability to lead the class with a lesson plan aligned to standards, aligned to, um, leveraging students to take ownership of their own learning through independent practice, so forth and so on. Kind of pull it all together. I don't know. I think we're close, but just
I think so.
ideas right now.
Can
So-
I just want to clarify, Kristen, I think because you're going down into we're going away from the content and you're going into the like, but what about in this and that and like this and like how we're doing things right now. So I just want to pull us back just a little bit to so we're talking about if I'm looking at my recommendation, the waiver option 2, district approved waiver. If I'm hearing you right, then Cynthia, you would say candidates work as a teacher of record under a temporary license for a minimum of 20 months, which would be 2 years.
No, because now she said 1 year.
Okay, so a minimum of 10 months and must participate in district approved content specific observations, but you're saying a minimum of 3 of those observations, Cynthia? Or I mean, we could tell me whatever.
I'm at least 2 full observations, I would say. I'm pausing a little bit because I'm trying to get in not extra work for the person, but the appropriate work. So for example, if we say take time to plan for 2 full observations, you're in the observers in the class for 45 minutes to an hour with a pre and post conference. And I'd rather trade the 3rd observation and take those, all the planning it would have taken to get those meetings done and that plan done and trade it for maybe mandatory professional development aligned to the theme.
Great. So then I would say a minimum of 10 months and participate in 2 district approved content specific full observations and 1 district approved content specific professional development experience.
Something like that, or maybe a minimum of 10 hours of like a log of your entries of professional learning.
I love that.
A minimum
because then
of
10 hours.
10 hours.
Because then they really could be taking those professional developments from their EPP or when correct does their like election day PD that's all science-based
or PD if they request from their district, can I attend this, PD aligned to my goal, or online. I mean, there's a lot of different modules and the CREX, the Learns, the ACE, there are some opportunities out there.
Can I make one more recommendation? If we're going to do this and there's going to be formal observations, the EPPs already have for student teaching observations very explicit rubrics, very explicit pieces that have been validated and are reliable to do these observations. I'd love to be able to have that data, like share that, so that's the instrument that's utilized in the observation. In other words, I just don't want a sort of generic observation without some kind of way that I can pull that data back if I'm making the decision, or at least helping to make the decision on the content knowledge of the individual. Does that make sense?
Yes, you bring up a really good point. Like, I'm really curious because you already observed student teaching at the EPPs. I'm really curious if the student teaching went awesome, but they still just can't pass the test. So you already have background data and then some of the candidates there.
Yes.
If we could bridge that, that would be great.
Yes.
So that's question 1. And then question 2, I'm thinking of all the different certifications. Like, how would we identify proving content at the elementary? Because there's all different content areas at the elementary versus, yeah.
I think with the all different content at elementary though, because they have like the 5 different Praxis 2 tests, if they were you know, if they struggled with specifically the social studies one or specifically the math one, that it would be just content area in that one area. Though I could see that being a limitation of this, in that what if you were close in 2 out of 5 subjects, right? So then do you have 2 goals with 4 observations? I think this would kind of, for elementary, I think it would provide an additional challenge because they might have more than one test that they
But
want to use this pathway for.
remember, elementary has the bridge.
Yes,
And
elementary
I
has
know
the bridge.
it's
this would
within
be-
one SEM, but you know,
Yeah,
I
but this
mean,
would be for people who didn't meet the bridge.
Right.
yeah, right.
So,
Right.
so a minimum of 10 hours of content-specific professional development,
Mhm.
2 observations, content-specific observations. Is there anything in addition to this, like 1 year kind of a kind of content-specific supervision year is what I'm seeing it as? And remember, this is separate than, like, to me, the EPP has already done the observations. They already have the data. So I wouldn't say like additional, unless like the EPP, that's option 1. Like the EPP does a waiver. It's not about, and like, so I think we're not really talking right now about what the EP, like some of these additional, not additional, but more clarified steps for the EPP. But is there any additional, very specific and concrete district responsibilities that we would want to add? There's 10 months of teaching, 2 content specific full observations, a minimum of 10 hours of content specific professional development.
What would you guys think about, instead of district approved professional development, mutually agreed upon professional development? That way both the teacher is interested in this and the district wants them to do it. In terms of content professional development, they might want, the teacher might want to go to something that's about like environmental science and the district agrees, but having that like teacher mutual instead of just district mandated. What are people's thoughts on that?
I think the district is the hiring body, and like if the teacher comes and says, "Hey, I want to do this, fulfill this," that's that conversation between the hiring entity and the like the employer and the employee. I wouldn't if like a teacher is like, "I disagree, I don't want to go to that PD." If the employee is like, "I disagree, I don't want to do that," and the employer is like, "But this is what I'm saying needs to be done," that you need, then I don't think that like who's gonna
Remember, this is not a certified teacher yet.
yeah.
Right.
So,
I'm,
I mean, you
I'm
really,
picturing it more friendly where a teacher and administrator are agreeing that this is the best. But I can
think
see your
that's
point
what
where
would
if
I think that would happen, but I think to put it into like it has to be mutually agreed upon, it actually could potentially create a dynamic that is not as friendly.
Yeah, I think we need a little more language because costs could come into this and there can't be a free for all of just pick anything, travel
Right.
to this national conference that's thousands of dollars. And but I also think it's not the responsibility of the district. We don't have people to sit and customize and search for PD. It has to be the responsibility of the professional. And then to bring it forward in collaboration. So I think a little more thought on that.
So I guess another question would be, does it have to be professional development? What if instead the teacher says, well, instead of doing professional development, can I take this additional coursework?
That would be considered professional development.
professional
Right.
development. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a broad spectrum.
Development can include a course. It can include just one
A
seminar,
conference.
it could be a conference. Like
Do
it
you
is
think we
broad
would?
enough.
Okay, good. Do you think we would
But-
need to specify that the professional development could include all of these options? Because coursework, sometimes districts will reimburse coursework different than professional development, like it comes out of different areas of the budget. And sometimes one section is more flexible than the other. Like our district's tuition reimbursement budget is way more flexible than our professional development reimbursement budget.
Right. And contracts sometimes have coursework reimbursement.
I hesitate before saying, let's put additional, like, here, it needs to be this or this or this, like a checklist. That's what kind of like
I
got
was
us.
thinking of doing like a, i.e., attending conferences,
I think that's
additional
understood,
coursework.
Kristen.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty understood.
Conferences, yeah, okay.
I think I'm thinking of like the superintendent licensing. So when you go for that, you go into college for another year. It's a certification, it's a certificate program, not a degree program. And you have a log of, I think, 100 hours. And in those 100 hours, you have certain areas to master. But your 100 hours could be you're connected to another district as a mentor, at least one where you can go, but you can observe board meetings, you can attend a parent event, you can do PD, you can
Yeah.
do watch the legislation, the budget. So you log, you're connected to a variety of opportunities to learn and you get credit for them as they align to the 8 indicators of superintendent competencies. So I feel like people will find how to be lifelong learners in the content they are passionate about, that can be logged.
Right. And if the
I
district is agreeing
apologize,
that
people.
those.
I have another meeting that I need to run to. I got to get there. So thank you for this. I will
Right.
catch up later. Thank
Have
you.
a good
We'll
day.
see you
Thank you.
Monday.
See you Monday.
Okay.
Mhm. Can we talk more openly about would this drafted plan be on Monday's agenda where people can chime in on different ideas?
We can do that. I was thinking, if Rebecca, because you have your 2 waiver option, did you want to make, waiver 1, the EPP option? Did you want to write that out more formally, and then you can move that as an item, and I can move this as an item, and then just get the discussion from the whole board? Because I think we have this like very small group in this ad hoc committee, and just to get more eyes on it. What do you think?
I think that's fine.
Yeah. Can we get data? Like I'm curious now. We know there's minimal people that don't pass the praxis.
Yeah.
However, I wonder if we could figure out what content areas the majority of this minimal group of people is not passing. Like it would be
Right.
great if the state could identify the top 3 areas of concern are blank.
They actually have that, but unfortunately, I think I only have that as a paper copy in my upstairs room.
But the state could do PD, I mean, that would be fantastic too. If they know these are the kind of the areas of hindrance for people coming in, and they could offer PD or get a group together, that would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
I think the other thing is that it's not as many. I don't think it's quite as many candidates as we're worried about. Like when there's concerns with like, well, how is the EPP going to get the data? Well, if your EPP already has a 95% pass rate, you have the data, and then the remaining students can take any of the other pathways, and your data automatically looks better because now
Mhm.
more people are getting certified as a result of your program, even if you weren't like the linchpin final step.
Right.
Where is I'm trying to see if I have the document as a electronic copy. Ooh, I do, and nope,
Okay.
I did, and I can forward it to you. It's got like which tests did people struggle the most on in Connecticut and the number of test takers for each one. But I
Okay.
do think that was a 2022 report, so I don't know that that's necessarily current.
Okay.
But
Well,
I
if the
can, when I
praxis
find that,
person
I
is,
will send it to you.
yeah, and if the praxis person is coming on Monday, we can ask that, or the ETS person, we can ask them too.
Right.
All right,
I
well, this was
also,
exciting. We had some good ideas.
yeah, I'd also be really interested to see, because I've been asking for it for, I don't know, 2 months. Like with the percentages, like when they're talking about the cut score, how close are people to the cut score? Because I was estimating, 3 SEMs, 15% would get almost everybody based on the data that I have, but it's incomplete. So I really do want a pathway that can get almost everybody, like include them right off the bat. So
Mhm. And this is only for initial cert, not cross endorsement.
exactly.
Do
Right.
we
And I
want
think
to look at shortage areas of cross endorsement as well?
that's the other ad hoc committee. They're supposed to be looking at like different ways to show cross endorsement. Um, but I'm not, have you been to any of the other ad hoc committee meetings? 'Cause I haven't been to any of those.
I have been to some. I couldn't go to all of them. Yeah.
It's so hard when there's so many meetings. Yeah. Yeah. But Rebecca, I can move this one with the added, like you're getting a, oh, so I guess Cynthia, a question. You had said assigned a mentor. Would, what if the mentor is not in your content area? Like my science supervisor is a biology teacher. Would the mentor be different than your supervisor?
So I would think, yes, the supervisor would be your supervisor who could also coach. But I would say your mentor could be someone you find even in another district that teaches the same content. And that could be logged as hours of PD if you're planning together or discussing, content and instruction and
Mm-hmm.
pedagogy.
Okay, so the mentor would be separate from the supervisor, and these observations, would they be potentially concurrent with the existing TVAL plan, or are you picturing these as separate?
It depends on the district's plan. If the district doesn't have the full observations anymore, then they would have to add them in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Kristen, I just sent you the just kind of the my updated proposal based on this conversation. So, however.
So I'll edit mine. I'll read yours, and if we can get final drafts to Jen, it would be awesome if she could send them out Friday so that everyone can have a chance to look at them before Monday, for the rest of the board.
Yeah, if you want to send out mine and however you want to package it, that's fine.
Perfect.
All right, cool.
Yes. Is there anything in particular for Monday that you guys want me to discuss and make sure I capture when she asks for a report from our ad hoc committee?
I think being able to just say that we have two kind of proposals that we are looking through, and we're looking for we want feedback. We want to open up and we want feedback from the committee. I think that's the larger board. Beyond that,
Yes.
I'm like, I don't. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, because I think one of the challenges as an ad hoc, there's only so few of us, so we might think it's a good idea, and then we get to the rest of the board, and they will tear it apart.
Well, I would like, but I want like, I just would rather, I would like on Monday to spend a bulk of time of that meeting discussing these two options. Open this conversation up. Just we're
Right.
gathering feedback. We're not like making a decision. We would like to gather feedback on where we are on these two proposals right now. And we can
Yeah.
listen to people and just gather the feedback. I'll gather the feedback on mine. You gather the feedback on yours, just like we've done today. And then we come back around to the ad hoc and say, okay, based on this feedback, here are adjustments that we've made. And then like talk about it. And then as an ad hoc, we can decide, okay, are we going with option one, option two?
Right. And I'm also happy that as much as I really wanted our bill to go through, I am kind of relieved we don't have a July 1st deadline anymore, because we have ideas that just need more eyes, and they need work, and we probably also need to figure out, like with SDE, what is feasible for them. I don't want to like create a whole
No,
bunch of
Yeah, I mean, I think part of our work as a board is to think beyond with the now. And so for us to be able to say, this is what we need, it might not be feasible for SDE today, but it's for them to then evolve into what we see as a path forward for ensuring the we are able to open up the profession to folks. So I don't want to be constrained by like, I just don't think SDE can do this right now. Because they might be able to do it in the future. It just requires some change.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got to finish early. I've got a 45. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Have a great day. Natasha, I hope
and-
you can hear me. I'm going to be virtual on Monday, but I'll be attending via Zoom or Teams.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.